in the moment, it just felt like, what? Like, is this fun for him? Is this a test? This is the first time that I'm speaking about it. It's something that I'll never...
Diddy scandal. The dark truth. They don't want you to know. Let's get straight to it. One of the most explosive celebrity controversies of our time. The swirling rumors, shocking allegations, and mind-blowing conspiracy theories surrounding Sean Diddy Combs have set the internet on fire. Once celebrated as a hip-hop mogul and business mastermind, Diddy now finds himself trapped in a storm of scandal. But here's where things get really crazy. What if the real reason he keeps getting denied bail isn't just about witness protection or public safety? What if there was an underground escape plan, one so carefully orchestrated that the authorities only caught wind of it at the last second? This story is deeper than it looks, and the truth might just change everything.
Always going to be a tough argument for the government because obviously Combs voluntarily came to New York. He surrendered his passports through his lawyer. He could have fled after the March raids of his Miami and Los Angeles homes, but he didn't. He has access to 2 private jets. I think it was a tougher argument. I know the government made the argument, but clearly the best argument was the dangerousness and the witness tampering. They had much more.
The fall of Sean Combs. From red carpets to a jail cell, Sean Combs, a man once known for his designer suits, A-list connections, and legendary all-white parties, is now spending his days inside a federal detention center. Despite offering a staggering $50 million in bail, the courts have shut him down at every turn. $50 million. Let that sink in. For someone of his status, that's not just a legal move. It's a statement. I'm not running. Yet, no matter how much he puts on the table, the answer remains the same. The doors keep slamming shut.
I'm a concern. No judge wants to wake up and read the headlines the next day. Oh, they treated this guy special and they gave him bond, and now he's gone and he fled from justice. So that's what's in the back of most judges' minds. On the other hand, we deal with cases where clients have significant funds sometimes. And sometimes where there's money, you can craft a unique solution. Years ago, it was the ankle bracelet and the ankle monitor.
The real reason. Diddy can't get bail. And it's bigger than you think, according to multiple sources. And let's be honest, the non-stop rumor mill, there's more to this story than what's being reported. Diddy's legal team has argued over and over that he's not a flight risk, offering everything from house arrest in a luxury Manhattan apartment to 24/7 private security. But the courts aren't convinced. Officially, the denial is based on concerns about his alleged influence, the possibility of witness tampering, and even claims that he refuses to follow rules behind bars. But behind the scenes, the whispers are getting louder. There's talk of a secret escape plan, one that allegedly involves not just Diddy's inner circle, but even members of his own family. Yes, you heard that right. His family.
With all the money he has and all the resources he has, they couldn't craft some solution that lets him be under some form of house arrest. And again, it sounds like special treatment, but the truth of the matter is, to incarcerate somebody like him is expensive to all of us. We're taxpayers, and he's got to have unique situations. You can't put him in general population where, everyone wants a piece of him and everyone wants to be his friend and everyone.
Diddy's jailhouse moves. Defiance or something more. Let's take a step back. After his arrest, Diddy's behavior behind bars reportedly set off multiple red flags. One of the biggest? Allegations that he was using other inmates' phone codes to make calls. But according to authorities, these weren't just casual conversations. They were suspected attempts to contact witnesses and possibly set something bigger in motion. Then, there's the now infamous Contact Me ASAP messaging service. Despite assuring the court he wouldn't use it, reports suggest he kept finding ways to communicate. On the surface, these actions might seem like small infractions, but together they painted a picture of someone who wasn't just bending the rules. He was actively testing the limits. Was it simple defiance, or was there a deeper plan in motion?
Well, Sierra, anything's possible, right? But now this judge has an even harder time, I think, because the past judge locked him up, didn't let him out, and he's still there available for trial. If the new judge lets him out on bond and something goes wrong, and this isn't the analysis that I'm proud to make, right? We shouldn't be saying, well, judges are worried about their own skin and how they look if something bad happens.
The Diddy bail battle. What's really going on? According to multiple sources, and let's be honest, the ever-churning rumor mill, there's far more to this story than what's being reported. Diddy's legal team has repeatedly insisted he's not a flight risk, offering everything from house arrest in a high-end Manhattan apartment to round-the-clock private security. But the courts aren't budging. Officially, the denials cite concerns over his alleged influence, the potential for witness tampering, and his reported inability to follow rules, even behind bars. But off the record, the whispers are growing, louder. There's talk of a secret escape plan, one that allegedly involves not just Diddy's closest allies, but even members of his own family. Yes, you heard that right. His family.
Everything. They're going to try to transfer him. They're going to try to get him out. You know, in a normal case where it's a high-profile person or a well-funded person, the prosecution and the judge is a little bit more concerned about wrongful prosecution because people that are mad that they're being arrested for a crime they didn't commit can turn around and file for malicious prosecution.
Diddy's jailhouse moves. Careless mistakes or a bigger plan? Let's take a step back. After his arrest, Diddy's behavior behind bars reportedly set off several red flags. One major concern, allegations that he was using other inmates' phone, codes to make calls. But authorities claim these weren't just harmless conversations, they were suspected attempts to contact witnesses and possibly orchestrate something much bigger. Then there's the infamous Contact Me ASAP messaging service. Despite assuring the court he'd stop using it, reports suggest he kept finding ways to stay connected. On the surface, these might seem like minor infractions, but taken together, they paint a picture of someone who wasn't just breaking the rules. He was testing how far he could push them. The question is, was this simple defiance, or was something far more calculated at play?
Every jail is bad, and some jails are worse than others. And the problem, again, is if you move him, why is he getting special treatment? And maybe he's earned special treatment. Maybe what he's done, maybe he's given so much back to his fans and to the world and to charity that maybe there's a way that it plays out in the end. But again, to go into court and say this jail is bad, move him to another jail, is not your first argument. That's sort of...
The plot thickens. Was Diddy planning the ultimate escape? Now, here's where things take a turn. According to sources close to the investigation, the FBI allegedly intercepted communications suggesting that Diddy's inner circle, including family members and longtime associates, was secretly working on a plan to get him out of custody. The alleged scheme wasn't just a last-minute scramble. Reports suggest it involved multiple locations, a network of safe houses, and even international connections. And let's be clear, this is Sean Combs we're talking about, a man with a contact list that could rival some world leaders. If anyone had the resources, influence, and connections to pull off a high-level escape, it would be him.
Reeling.
They can't move him to the general population. And would he be at risk? Sure, he'd be at risk. There's so many people that have nothing to lose, right? They're going to be in jail the rest of their life. They've got nothing to... They want their 15 minutes of fame. They were friends with Diddy, or they hurt Diddy, or they Diddy, or they did... I mean, there's so many, people in jail that this would be their moment. You can't put them there. Plus,
the betrayal. How authorities uncovered the alleged escape plot. So how did law enforcement catch wind of this supposed plan? According to insiders, it was a mix of surveillance, intercepted messages, and, perhaps the biggest twist, a potential mole within Diddy's inner circle. Think about it. Someone close enough to know the details of an escape plan, turning on him and feeding information to the authorities. If true, this would explain why the courts have remained firm in denying bail. Because if the FBI even suspected there was truth to these allegations, letting him walk, no matter how much money was on the table, would be a risk they simply couldn't afford to take.
But, no one wants to be in prison. And you can imagine what happens when you take sort of 40 people, all of whom have been at least charged with crimes, and lock them in a single room for years on end and throw out the key, which is the most trivial things become all that people have left to.
Diddy's alleged escape plan, bigger than anyone imagined. This wasn't just about slipping out of a detention center. According to sources, the plan was a full-scale operation, something straight out of a Hollywood thriller. Reports suggest it involved private jets, decoy vehicles, and a carefully designed underground network to get him somewhere beyond the reach of extradition. Some insiders claim certain family members were in charge of logistics, while others were allegedly securing financial backing for the operation. Whether fact or fiction, the sheer audacity of such a plan has left people stunned.
Diddy like?
Obviously I've only seen one piece of him, which is, Diddy in prison. And he's been kind to people in the unit. He's been kind to me. It's also it's a position no one wants to be in. Obviously he doesn't. I don't. As you said, it's kind of a soul-crushing place for the world.
The timing raises questions. Coincidence or calculated move? Here's something that can't be ignored: the timing. Just as these escape rumors started swirling, Diddy's legal team was aggressively pushing for his release under house arrest. Coincidence? Some don't think so. Critics speculate that the house arrest request wasn't just about comfort. It may have been a calculated move to make an escape easier. Think about it. A high-end Manhattan apartment, carefully chosen security measures, and a setup that Diddy himself could have influence over. Could such an arrangement have been the perfect staging ground for a getaway? It's a theory that refuses to die, and one that has plenty of people asking serious questions.
What we see are just the people that are around us on the inside, rather than who we are on the outside.
Diddy's inner circle. Under scrutiny, how deep does this go? What makes this even more shocking is the alleged role of Diddy's own family. Rumors suggest that the FBI is now closely examining several of his relatives, digging into their financial, records, and communication history. The idea that his loved ones could be entangled in such a high-stakes operation has sent shockwaves through both the entertainment industry and the public. And if these allegations hold any weight, the consequences could be far-reaching. This wouldn't just be Diddy facing legal trouble. His entire family could find themselves caught in the crosshairs. The very people who have stood by him through everything could now be pulled into a legal battle that changes their lives forever.
Some of them are, I think they're thinking like, wow, this is sort of a big opportunity, to meet people they wouldn't otherwise get to meet, which is, it shocked me the first time I heard that, right? It makes sense from their perspective, but boy, is that not how I think about prison.
Diddy behind bars, a harsh reality or a calculated move? As this legal drama unfolds, let's not forget where Diddy is spending his days: the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Known for its harsh conditions, it's a far cry from the luxury mansions and VIP hotspots he once called home. Imagine this: Sean Diddy Combs, a man who once sailed on private yachts and dominated elite nightclubs, now waking up to the cold, unrelenting hum of fluorescent lights in an 8x10 cell. The contrast is staggering. But here's the real question. Are these grim conditions simply the reality of the prison system, or could they be part of a larger strategy? Some speculate that authorities may be using his environment as leverage, pushing him to a breaking point where he might consider cutting a deal. Whether intentional or not, one thing is clear: Diddy's current reality is a world away from his past. And as his time behind bars stretches on, it's becoming a story of its own. So what's life really like for the mogul inside those prison walls? Let's take a closer look.
That's where Diddy has been for months now, but last week he was taken to the hospital. According to reports from the New York Post, Diddy was transported from MDC in the cover of darkness at about 10 p.m. on January 30th. He was taken to a Brooklyn hospital for an MRI after reporting issues with his knee.
Diddy's new reality, from luxury to lockdown. The moment Diddy stepped into the Metropolitan Detention Center, his world changed completely. Gone were the designer robes, silk sheets, and private islands. Instead, he woke up each morning to the unforgiving reality of prison life. Picture this: a steel bed with a so-called mattress barely thicker than a magazine. No pillows, no comfort, just a cold, white-walled 8x10 cell that offers nothing but confinement. For a man who once had the world at his feet, even the smallest luxuries, like a decent place to rest, are now out of reach. It's a stark contrast, one that lingers in the mind. A man who once lived in ultimate extravagance now sleeps without even the simplest comfort. Let that sink in. Fope.
Apparently, Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a...
Inside MDC, a world away from Diddy's former life. The Metropolitan Detention Center isn't just notorious for its lack of luxury. It's widely regarded as one of the most chaotic and underfunded facilities in the system. Over the years, critics have painted a grim picture of its conditions, citing overcrowding, rampant violence, and limited access to even the most basic necessities. One former inmate famously described it as hell on earth, and that might actually be an understatement. For someone like Diddy, who spent decades living in the lap of luxury, this must feel like being thrown into an entirely different universe. A world where status, wealth, and influence mean nothing.
After that initial review of his current medical situation during his physical, and then there's follow-up to that process if there's something found, immediately. But, you have to understand, daily there are medical staff walking through the units, doing what we call sit call and asking inmates, are they okay? And then you have folks that are walking.
Diddy's isolation, a different kind of prison.
With the FBI
Here's
and feds
where things
involved,
take an interesting
it seems
turn. Diddy isn't just any inmate. He's a global icon, a household name. But in the Metropolitan Detention Center, that fame doesn't grant him any special privileges. If anything, it might make his situation even more difficult. Reports suggest he's being housed in a special unit designed to keep high-profile detainees separated from the general population. At first glance, that might seem like a safer option. But in reality, isolation comes with its own brutal challenges. Imagine being confined to an even smaller space, with little to no human interaction and nothing to break the monotony. If the Ijazis and Co., regular sections of the prison are tough, this special housing unit is its own brand of psychological warfare.
Inmates have procedures all the time. You have folks there with cancer, you have folks there with serious other chronic diseases, and sometimes it does require individuals to have surgery even while they're on pretrial status.
Diddy behind bars, struggling to adapt. Adding another layer to this unfolding story are Diddy's reported interactions with other high-profile inmates, most notably Sam Bankman-Fried, the disgraced cryptocurrency mogul also held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. In a surprisingly candid interview, Bankman-Fried described Diddy as kind and approachable, even within the bleak confines of the facility. "He's always been kind to me," he shared, painting a picture of a man trying to hold on to some semblance of his old persona. But let's not mistake kindness for contentment. Behind the scenes, reports suggest that Diddy is struggling to adjust to the brutal realities of his new existence.
I've had a lot of time to reflect on how to communicate. And in retrospect, I think I was not effective at communicating, especially when the crisis first hit. And, in the months thereafter, I made a mistake I often make. I get swept up in details and forget to communicate the bigger.
The mental toll, a silent battle. The hardships Diddy faces aren't just physical, the psychological weight of incarceration, especially in a place like the Metropolitan Detention Center, is immense. Some believe the authorities may be counting on this. For a man like Diddy, who has always been in control, the complete loss of autonomy and the relentless monotony could be particularly punishing. And that's where the real strategy might come into play. Imagine the pressure building with each passing day, the isolation chipping away at his resolve. The authorities understand that time itself can be a powerful weapon, and in high-stakes cases like this, it's often used with precision.
That he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on.
Diddy's harsh reality. Behind bars, the Metropolitan Detention Center is notorious for its dire conditions: unsanitary living spaces, violent incidents, and barely edible food, a stark contrast to Diddy's former life of luxury. While housed in a secure section, he isn't shielded from the prison's constant tension and isolation. Beyond survival, his biggest challenge is preparing for trial. Limited access to legal resources, including a heavily restricted laptop, raises questions about whether these obstacles are just protocol or a calculated effort to weaken his defense.
Some people do think that Diddy can help him, but this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey because he doesn't like MDC. He's a Marshall's inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth I don't know, several times a week.
Authorities justify the restrictions as necessary to prevent witness tampering, but critics argue they severely hinder Diddy's ability to mount a proper defense. It's a thin line between justice and suppression, and some wonder if the scales have been tipped. With the trial still months away, the uncertainty looms. Will the pressure break him into making a deal, or will he fight to the end? One thing is clear. The stakes are massive, not just for Diddy, but for everyone entangled in this high-profile case.
It's a question of that, but when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witnesses.
As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, one thing is certain: the world is watching. Whether you see Diddy as a victim of circumstance or a man facing long overdue accountability, his story is far from over. His current reality may be confinement, but the battle for his future is only beginning. With the trial approaching, the questions multiply. Is his denied bail truly linked to an elaborate escape plot, or is there more beneath the surface? And what about his family? Are they innocent bystanders or key players in this unfolding drama? As speculation swirls, the lines between fact and fiction blur, leaving us all to wonder, how far will Diddy go to regain his freedom? What do you think? Is he a mastermind outmaneuvering the system or a victim of injustice? Share your thoughts below and stay tuned. This story is far from over.